Hello, everybody. How are we all doing this beautiful afternoon? Or it's afternoon here, I guess. I'm so excited to see all of you. I'm waiting for Carol to join us. We'll give her just a couple minutes and then we'll get started with our conversation with her. Carol was the one that suggested that we do Instagram lives, and then somehow she was waiting for me, but I was waiting for her, and so we kind of it wasn't until like yesterday that she's like, so did you want me to do an Instagram live with you? And I'm like, well, yes, of course. And so that's why we kind of stuck this here on the second to last day, and then I've got a couple of more people that are still working on some videos. And in case you haven't been able to tell by now, this whole adventure has been a little bit of a flying by the seat of my pants kind of a thing. I mean, it's an adventure, right? So I had a lot of resistance. I had this idea and I thought it would be great, and I actually meant to do this a whole month ago when issue 1 actually first got released, or issue 5 got released, but then my resistance around putting it together was like really intense. And so that's why we ended up kind of here at the last minute doing all of this together. And luckily all these authors were so wonderful about sharing videos or being willing to go live. And so it's been a lot of fun, I think. And I hope all of you have enjoyed everything that we've been sharing. And I wasn't too worried about the fact that it was all kind of last minute, because I knew it would all still live on my website. And it's not like I'm charging anybody anything for it. And so I've seen a couple of you guys have requested to be in the live video, and I'm waiting for Carol because I actually am intending to visit with Carol for this half hour. So it's not that I'm ignoring you, but I'm kind of ignoring you. If you'd like to make a comment, I'd love to see that. And then here comes Carol, has joined us, so we'll get talking to her in just a minute. Hello, Lynn. How are you? It's kind of weird to try to keep track of, well, and of course I've got bifocals, so I'm trying to see everything on my screen and not like look up all the time. And and then try to keep track of who's doing what. Here we go. We have got all in. You know, I'm excited to have you here watching. Lynn is one of my oldest online friends, and there's Carol. Hi, Carol.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you
I'm pretty
today?
good. I'm going to have to sit up a little bit here. I've got my camera a little bit too low.
Yeah, I've kind of had to experiment with, okay, how do I sit so that I'm not having terrible posture?
Right, exactly.
Move the camera around and not show off my double chin too bad. And all that kind of thing.
That's hopeless. I probably would do better with a mask these days.
Oh, shoot. So yeah, Retro Queen Bee, you just have to comment. If you wanted to join, you would have gone live on video with us. So Carol, this is our first time like actually talking to each other. We've just been visiting via email, and of course, I've read your lovely article. And for the benefit of those who maybe haven't yet read your article in issue 5, I wonder if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and your creative journey, and then particularly about your pencil prayers.
Okay. Well, I had kind of an interesting artistic journey. And I see hello, Alana. Um,
Yeah.
Yay. I had the usual seventh grade teacher that said, art teacher that said, "Oh, ick, don't ever do art." Did
Mm-hmm.
art anyway, but didn't really take it very seriously, and went to nursing school. First job wound up in Ann Arbor, Michigan, with my fiance, and he was in med school, so we're talking really lonesome. So I started taking some
Yeah.
classes, uh, and my professors at the community college suggested I apply to art school. And so I applied to U of M art school thinking, no way, and
Mm-hmm.
got in. Uh,
Oh my goodness.
yeah. And actually, this was so long ago that I could work part-time nights in the coronary intensive care unit and still be able to pay my tuition and take classes.
Those
So pretty,
days are long gone,
they're,
aren't they?
they are long gone. Having put 4 kids through college, I can be sure that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
And so, I started out in art school as a printmaker. I love to draw, love the whole thing. And, did that along with working as a nurse and 4 kids and blah. And at some point, I think it was around 2004 when I saw the tsunami happening in Southeast Asia. I just felt so anxious and upset and disempowered.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thought that I could think of back in the 70s, they said, think globally, but act locally. And so I started doing these meditative prayers that I called pencil prayers, that I feel like the in between the paper and the pencil is the web that connects us all. And I
Mm-hmm.
imagined my pencil strokes were stitching that web together where it was mended and smoothing out the trials and tribulations. And I also found that besides feeling like I was sending healing out into the world, felt like I was healing myself.
Mm.
And so every time, and I, as I get older, have a little bit more in terms of anxiety here and there, and what's not to be anxious about these days.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
and so,
We could start
so
a very long list.
exactly. And so I start every day with breakfast and creating a pencil prayer. And if I'm anxious later in the day, I'll do another and another and
Mm-hmm.
another.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
So, um, and what at some point after I lost an adult daughter, I just kind of felt compelled to share those. And so I
Mm-hmm.
started giving them away. And I would lay them all out on the table and invite people to take one. And they'd say, "Oh, I don't know which one. Oh, this one.
It would
This
just
is the one."
call to them or
It
something,
called
wouldn't it?
to them. And even the ones that I thought, I don't like them so much, I went ahead and I waxed them to kind of cement those feelings. And
Mm-hmm.
someone always needed that particular one. I might feel a little embarrassed because it wasn't my best, but something about the energy still called to them.
Yeah, yeah.
And so,
That's lovely.
yeah.
And so you shared about, I mean, you've exhibited them, you've given them away.
Hmm.
Um, what, I mean, I don't even know what I'm trying to ask. Um, can you talk about how the exhibit came to be, or, how?
Well, what I can talk about, which I think is really most important, perhaps. I mean, the exhibit came about because I proposed an exhibit, and pencil prayers was what I was doing because I was
Mhm.
times when I was really anxious. But what I learned as an artist is a couple of things. The first thing I learned is it's really not us to judge whether our work is good. It is all
Mm,
in the eye of the beholder. You do it, you put it out there. Some of it comes back and gets put in your paper files. But even if it's in your paper files, there still may be someone out there who needs that energy. And so
Mm-hmm.
every now and then I bring things out and offer them. I also learned that it's amazing to create community and connection. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that is something that is so lacking in a lot of ways in our day-to-day living, especially during COVID and beyond.
Oh, absolutely.
But I've been giving these things away for so long. Workshops I went to on the West Coast, the airline flight attendant who asked what I was doing, and I asked, "Do you want?" And she said, "Yes." People in
Yeah.
line, people in line who always have their own feelings of grief or whatever, and no way to give voice to them. And so
Mm-hmm.
this became really larger for me
Yeah.
than the self-healing practice, and I can't even express how healing it is to be in connection with so many people. And and
That's
so, and so artists need to share their work
mm-hmm.
because we need to put that out in the world because somebody needs it.
Yeah. Yes. Somebody, yeah, I don't know how many times I've posted something and somebody will say, "Boy, I needed to see that today.
Mm-hmm.
I needed those words today." And, and sometimes I think we get so involved in the algorithm and we're all complaining about, "Oh, nobody sees my work." Well, but I think the right people still see your work. I
Mm-hmm.
think it would be nice if more of them could, but that's
Right.
not what matters.
Right.
And that comes back to, and I kind of, I've said this before, but that comes back to why I created the magazine, was for there to be a more definite place for some of this stuff to live, so that you can point to the paper and not have to scroll back. I was looking for something. Well, yesterday I was working on something for the magazine and I had to scroll back through like 3 pages of posts to find my answer.
Mm-hmm.
Where if it had been something that was in the magazine, I might have just been able to pick it up and look it up. But
Right. And such a beautiful magazine to inspire people, that people who feel like they're kind of in this all by themselves, to say, "Oh, look at this," and all of this gorgeous work that's happening out there. And while I've always had a sketchbook practice since I went to art school,
mm-hmm.
there are times when I'm doing something really that's pleasing me and I'm thinking, why am I doing this in my journal? Nobody will ever see it. But it's such a breeding ground of creativity.
Yeah.
And so
Yes.
to have something that you can, a magazine you can look at and see that happening, I hope that it makes people really excited to do their own journey.
I've heard from a lot of people, and I keep working on ways to find more of those people to
Right.
share. And Michelle and I, when we were live the other day, we were talking about so many times online you see people share their art journal pages and they're very pretty, or they're very whatever, and you can tell that they have been created. And I don't mean to like denigrate that they were created to share. I don't mean that like in a bad way, but sometimes you can tell that somebody was thinking about, "Oh, I'm going to share this later." And I do it too. I'm totally guilty of it. But sometimes I think it's nice to see the stuff that was never maybe even intended to be shared, to see what people are doing. And then you can see that journey to, oh, and then now this is what they can also do. And this is that journey it was able to take them on. So.
Right.
So I'm glad to do it, and I'm glad to keep doing it. And it just is very interesting, all of the different things people have shared with me to share in the magazine. I wouldn't have, it would have never occurred to me to go looking for and thinking about something like what you do. But I was really glad to see that you shared it with us. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more, or I don't know if you're prepared to do a little bit of a demo or not, of how you actually create a pencil prayer.
I'm not sure I have the camera tech ready to do that.
Okay,
but
can you talk about it a little bit though?
Absolutely, because it has evolved so that I have rules, which are how it came about. So my practice now, after having done some Reiki training and so on,
Okay.
my now is to sit quietly with pencil and paper with me. And I put my feet flat on the ground and I go through a little bit of a grounding
Okay.
meditation kind of thing. I'll be honest with you, I've been doing this for so many years that really all I have to do is sit down and put my feet on the floor or flat. And I'm in that state. It's like I can
Yeah.
do that prayer. And then I just kind of draw energy up through my body and up into my hand, and I just make marks. I just make marks. And then once I've made some marks that please me, then I go back and I hold my pencil kind of at an angle like this, and I just gently rub it so that the actual weight of the pencil is what uh, um, blends
Oh, okay.
my pencil. I learned that back in community college a million years ago.
Yeah.
And I turn it around and I just kind of intuitively shade or make something darker, a little bit more subtle. I like to use a 0.3 mechanical pencil, and they're tricky,
Mm.
but my favorite thing. And as I'm turning it, I am intending healing. I am imagining that I am stroking the web. I never have music going. If I'm in a busy place, I still can count that out. And
Okay.
I listen for just a scratch of pencil over paper.
Mm-hmm.
I never erase, because
Okay.
if I'm healing, if I'm mending, if I'm putting things together, it seems a little bit counterintuitive to erase it out.
Sure. Sure.
So
Yep,
I
that makes sense.
so I never erase, and sometimes they get a little darker that I'm happy with, but whatever I do is what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and then I date and sign the back, put my website on it, and at some point when I have a number ready to go, at the moment I have probably a year's worth that I haven't quite gotten around to actually dipping. I do one literally every day,
Yeah.
and and uh, and then I have a little ceremony where I just heat my beeswax up and I dip them and kind of seal those intentions. And the most fun part of this then, when I'm in a workshop or in a group or whatever, is to invite people to pick one and watching
Mm-hmm.
people find the one. I can't tell you how many um, tearful exchanges I've had with people that have been so moving. And
Mm.
so that's my process,
Okay.
basically. And for groups, I've actually done kind of a group pencil prayer. It's all drawing in silence and getting all different results. But in some ways, it feels like when you bring all of that energy together, that it's like praying in church when you have, you know, all these people putting those same healing intentions into the world. It feels very powerful.
Mm-hmm. Now, so I mean, all of that is very lovely, but you know, us artists, we like to ask some of the more practical type questions too. Is
Go
there a
for
certain kind of paper that you like to use? Or
it.
you mentioned the site, the 3 millimeter mechanical pencils.
Right, right. I love a nice slick surface. So hot press. I'm currently using little tags that you can get at Office Depot
Oh,
to
sure.
create. And they have one really shiny side that doesn't take pencil well, but they have one that's kind of like a Bristol.
Oh,
So
okay.
my is a very smooth, very hard paper. Sometimes I use Japanese paper, but I just like to have the paper smooth enough that I don't get any texture the way you would on a really.
Like on watercolor paper.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
So I've done some on watercolor paper, but this is my preferred way to do it.
that's for sure. They're so lovely, Carol. Well, I'm very drawn to circles in general, and
Mhm.
to see all of that
Right.
motion and the movement and
There's another.
is just really.
And now that I'm thinking of the details, I often tend to get really uh, conscious of where the intersections are. And so you'll
Hmm.
notice that I often emphasize that with my pencil. And
Yeah.
I didn't think to bring one with me, but a while ago I looked up neurographic art, which
Hmm.
has making marks, and then where everything comes together, you round the corners off, it becomes like neurons. But
Yes.
honestly, the same thing as this is the same thing as Zentangle. It's a meditative practice.
Right.
Um,
Right. Now, I don't know if you recall, but in issue 5 here, Anne Corbiere Scott, she actually did an article about neurographic art and has some guidelines of how she does it. And
mhm,
yes, that rounding things off and
right,
making them look like neurons.
right.
And I have, I've got all of these. I've got 5 issues worth of great ideas, and I can count on one hand how many of them I've actually had time
Right.
to implement myself. But hopefully lots of people are trying things out. And
Yeah.
so so this has been really lovely. Carol, is there anything else about your practice that you'd like to share with us? Or if there are any of our viewers, live viewers, that have questions for Carol, we'd love to hear from
Yeah.
you.
I have one more thing that I realized I needed to say is that
Sure.
I'm a kind of intuitive artist, and I'm kind of like a magpie. So I'm always walking and looking at things and
Mm-hmm.
thinking about them. And so you can see over time what I'm doing changes because I just bring the energy up, and whatever I've seen or whatever I'm thinking about seems to be echoed in that. For instance, I did, you have a picture of it in the journal, 100 Days of Pencil Prayers for World Peace. And I did
Mm-hmm.
them on 2 by 3 pieces of paper, and I mounted them all on a large board. And as you look at them in chronological order, there's a place where things change a little bit. Well, I had picked up a stone that had a hole in it, and it reminded me of the forget his first name, Gorman paintings of Navajo women that are very rounded and very maternal, and you could imagine them being very fertile. And the current circles that you're seeing now evolved. And
Mm.
the first 100 of them, and probably even beyond that, you began to see in those images what were circles but looked like a mother holding a baby or
Oh, yeah.
very maternal thing. They became very embodied feminine to me. And that's
Mm-hmm.
just picking up a stone, looking at some other things, and then that's what came out.
Oh, isn't
So,
that that's just really cool. Well, and it's what they to have done so many hundreds of these, to see those progressions. I mean, that's the thing that we're all as artists chasing, but sometimes we don't put in the work for. And so it's lovely that you have all of that to share and show, and can make those connections.
right.
That's really beautiful.
And I noticed
So,
someone's asking about the words that come to me,
yeah.
and it's always kind of here. I was working on a body of work in 2019 that I had proposed a show that said this would be about the way culture imposes things on women, that kind
Hmm.
of. And I'm also a nurse, which means I know way too much, and I'm really anxious about things, and my gut was feeling bad, and I was certain it was terminal, whatever it was. And one morning, as I was doing it, I heard, "Draw it, just draw it." And what happened when I started drawing that just intuitively became these figures that had circles that felt to me like great vessels of wisdom and
Mm.
power. And so while I had intended this to be what society imposed on women, it became a real revelation about the embodied wisdom and spirituality of women. And so I get some of those things. Sometimes I get titles. Sometimes I get, this needs to go to this person.
Mm.
Not often, but
Yeah,
every,
but sometimes.
yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So lovely. Well, Carol, it has been really lovely talking to you. I'm so grateful that you suggested we do these, even though it has been a little scary for me to do. Before you joined us, I was kind of babbling a little bit that, I had thought this was such a great idea to do this little adventure. And then once I proposed it and I was like, okay, now I have to do it. Oh, I had so much resistance. And so I'm still glad we did it. I don't know if I'll ever do anything exactly like this again, but excuse me, definitely will be using Instagram Lives again in the future, and maybe sometime we can have you come back and do a demo for us. I kind of
love to.
threw that at you. Sorry about that. But I'm so glad for everyone that joined us, and then I will get the replay will post right away to my feed. Then I'll also upload it to YouTube so that people can watch it. So
Perfect.
any last words of wisdom for us, Carol?
Oh, I don't know how much wisdom I have, but thank you so much for helping me share this this practice.
Yes, well, thank you. We're really glad that you did share it with us. It's just been very lovely to see. So all right. Well, I'm going to shut this down, and we will see you all. I'll be live one more time for this week, tomorrow morning with Molly Anthony, and so we will see all of you then, hopefully. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.